Dave DiNatale along with Bud Shaw here on WKYC.com, also on Facebook Live and on YouTube. We'll be with you for the next 90 minutes or so, Bud. As we were here yesterday and we said, when you start getting into Monday, now it really starts to feel like the All-Star break and All-Star festivities, because you know what's happening later tonight at Progressive Field with the Home Run Derby, and there's almost like a different vibe now. It's like, it's getting real.
Yeah, and the other part of it is that we've now seen the Indians finish up the first half, we'll call it, with a win yesterday. They're sixth in a row. Some of the guests we had yesterday, including Cliff Floyd from MLB Network, was quick to point out that this team has gone through a lot more adversity than maybe we in Cleveland even appreciate. We saw them pare down the roster a little bit, sell off some players in the offseason, and we kind of got into this narrative that that's why they were struggling, right? Well, it turns out once they started to get some of these hitters back, not hitters, but players back, and got some more bats in the lineup, some from the minors, they're going to be a pretty formidable challenge now to the Minnesota Twins.
It's amazing what happens. You get Mike Clevenger back, and he had been rough in his, he came back and then he got hurt and then came back and didn't pitch very well. But he pitched well in Kansas City, and now Trevor Bauer just kind of seems like he's gotten himself back into a nice groove. I'm not convinced that maybe at some point he wasn't 100%. For about a month or so.
I was at the game against Kansas City at home a few weeks back when he struck out 12. But I remember sitting there with Les Levine watching that game, and I said in the second inning, he looks like he has no-hit stuff.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't take a baseball expert to see that, right? But after that game is when he said that he felt like it was the first time in a while he's felt like himself. And, this is a guy, for as quirky as he is, he knows what his arm feels like, what his body feels like, and I think he was dealing with some lower leg issues. For a pitcher, that's really a tough thing to overcome. It looks like he's back, and he looks like he's ready to become the ace that everybody thought he would be.
And then all of a sudden, that kind of, once you have that front of the rotation solidified, and the Indians, they've almost had a patchwork starting rotation, but once you have it solidified, everything else kind of falls into place.
Yeah,
and you can really kind of take a deep breath.
We're looking now at a staff that should get, is getting Clevenger back. How are you? Tim, nice to meet you. And could have Kluber back. So it's going to be a very interesting run to the pennant.
Yeah. Now, Major League Baseball's All-Star Game is tomorrow night. One of the gentlemen who will be umpiring, he'll be manning, I believe, the third base side of things. Tim Timmons is joining us, native of Columbus, Ohio. Welcome back to the Buckeye State, and welcome to our broadcast position here.
Thanks, Dino. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to sit with you guys.
Well, how does an Ohio State guy get into umpiring and become a Major League umpire?
Well,
we only have an hour and a half. So go ahead.
You get dropped on your head a number of times when you're a kid. I was raised around it. My dad is actually in the Ohio High School Hall of Fame.
Oh, terrific.
For officiating.
Oh,
so
wow.
He worked high school ball and then worked at Ohio State and down at OU. So as a kid, I'd go with him and end up sitting in the press box, and so I thought that was pretty cool.
Were you always thinking, okay, baseball, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to follow a dad's footsteps, I want baseball? Or did you think maybe football might be, being an official on a football field or on basketball might be more fun? Or what led you to baseball specifically?
You know what, I played baseball, and I attended Muskingum College, and then I ended up transferring to Ohio State, and I really thought I maybe would like to play the game, and that became very clear to me about my sophomore year that I did not have the skill set to go down that road. So, I wanted baseball to be a part of my life. It was, I had an older brother who had passed away when I was about 8, and there was sort of, a little bit of a void there, and I latched onto baseball and started playing travel ball when I was 13, and, by the time I got a little bit older, I thought, I'd like to officiate. My dad was the president of the local association. I said, I'm going to umpire. He said, okay. He said, that's no problem. And so I was living in Columbus at the time and going to Ohio State, and I kept getting games in London, Ohio. So I was like, so finally I said something to him. I'm like, can I get some closer games?
Right,
And he goes,
please.
well, you do some clinics and you get some certifications and you do your time. And I'm like, oh, geez. So I was going to Ohio State, and there I thought I'd go to umpire school so I could get better games at home. I really didn't know that much about the minor leagues or how the whole system worked. But I was a couple of weeks into Joe Brinkman's umpire school, and I thought, I'm not half bad at this.
Huh.
Yeah, I can do this.
I could do this. And then I got the opportunity to go to the selection camp, and that year about 450 of us went, and I think there were 6 of us that got, spring training positions. And I went to out to Arizona with the Mesa Cubs. And
I don't think people have any idea of how selective it is.
Yeah.
It's like trying to make the PGA Tour almost.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be quite as good an athlete.
Well, yeah, a little different, but
But it's like, it's a journey, just like these players to get to the majors. I mean, it is a journey. It requires so much work.
Yeah, so I think probably your average career is 8 to 10 years in the minor leagues. And my wife's here, one of my sons is here, and Leslie was the breadwinner for that entire time.
Sure.
I mean, I think the most I ever made was like $13,000 in a year. So she carried all the insurance, and it was a complete family effort. Her folks helped out, my folks helped out. I mean, we just were very fortunate. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is you go, and there's a big change from, London, Ohio freshman team, and then the first game I had with the Mesa Cubs, Rick Sutcliffe's doing rehab. His curveball was slightly better
than what you were used to seeing.
Yeah, right.
I would never tell Rick that. But and then as you move through the system, the water gets warmer and warmer.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
So for a while, you not only get to be underpaid, but you also get to be underappreciated.
Absolutely.
What a nice combination.
Well, we're still underappreciated.
That's right.
My kids are better educated than I am. They're better traveled than both their mother and myself.
Hey, so has instant replay in any way made your life?
I can't hear you. This isn't working.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it's not.
What? Instant replay.
Has instant replay made your
geez.
life worse or better?
People think that umpires are anti-instant replay. The last thing, because in the past, before instant replay, when I was a younger umpire, I've won a ball game, and I've lost a ball game in a role as an umpire. It's a terrible feeling. Umpires are not anti-instant replay. People don't believe that. But, I mean, the last thing you want to do is have a call left on the field that's going to affect the outcome of a ball game.
Right.
So, no, we don't have a problem with it. And the majority of stuff we send to them is like that. I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to go into the Chelsea facility where we actually run replay. It is like NASA.
Right.
I mean, they're not televisions, they're monitors. I mean, the resolution, you're looking at this is the bottom of the sole of the runner's foot, and if there's spikes, I mean, you literally are looking for, the spike hitting the back. I mean, you can read the logo on the ball as it's coming through. Let me assure you, that's how fast it happened. You're like, but yeah, so I mean, it's been a positive thing.
Well, it's cut down on manager-umpire arguments, too, hasn't it, in a lot of ways?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's still, there's some spillover into check swings and some other things where, it's an emotional game. Everybody's making their house payments, so.
But you know that, though, I mean, it's an emotional game, and you're prepared, to have, players and managers jump in your face because it's an emotional game. As long as they don't cross the line. As long as they don't cross the line.
I think that, I think nowadays, that's probably due in large part to instant replay. I think that the tone has, come down a lot. Now, the tone on the field has come down a lot. But the tone off the field, I think, before instant replay was still, there was some showmanship out there. I remember the first time I ejected Bobby Cox. And I was going up and down, and I saw him in the hallway, after the ball game. And he said, you got that right today, Tim. You did a good job. And I said, Bobby, I appreciate that. And he said, do you smoke cigars? I said, yes, I do. And he said, here you go. I mean, he was a class guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's, everybody, from you guys and the staff of the ballparks, the staff of the team, players, the manager, we realize that we're all baseball people, and it's one heck of a way, you know, to provide for your family. It's just I've never worked a day in my life. So.
Speaking of, you guys are prepared for that kind of fan reaction and player reaction and all. Youth umpires are not. We know there was an incident in Colorado, and I believe, I don't know if it was your group in particular that brought that up.
But wanted to bring up, we wanted to bring up ump cares.
Chris reached out to that lad, and you know, here's a 13-year-old youngster who's acting in a more adult fashion than the folks that are chronologically older, and that's I will say this about instant replay. Everybody, especially now, I think kids are, you know, more interested in video games, more interested. I remember I was playing a video game with one of my sons, this was years ago, and it was, they challenged. I'm like, you can challenge it? But I mean, I mean, we were out, well, at least the two of us, you're a little bit younger. I mean, we were out playing ball in the backyard, and there were no challenges. I mean, you had an argument and whatever. Okay, you arrived at a decision. But I think that, you know, the temperament for it has to be perfect is really that threshold of being perfect in life and being treated so fairly, because baseball for me, and just basically anything that happens between the lines on a field of competition, is about overcoming adversity. So as you move forward in life, okay, you know, if you're successful 3 out of 10 times in baseball, you've had a pretty good day, a pretty good season. So, you know, that's the one thing that I will say. I think, you know, folks don't realize, you know, the umpire gets paid even at the youth thing. The umpire gets paid at high school. The umpire gets paid because the parents don't volunteer to do it anymore. And it's a shame, because kids want to play the game. Kids want to have fun.
Yes.
And kids want to be challenged. And they also need to know that you can only push. There's a limit to where you can push, and then there's some pushback. So we were really, you know, Chris reached out, and we've got a charity, Umps Care Charities, and we're just, you know, basically, we were so impressed that a kid demonstrated that much composure and was able to really take control of his situation and have the sense to sort of know when to back out. But he did a heck of a job.
You mentioned your charity. Could you let people know exactly how this started and what you guys are doing?
You know, but a lot of people don't know this, but umpires have mothers. And we have, you know, folks we care about. And, you know, one of the things that we do is we try and sort of reach out to maybe some of the underdogs in the world. So years and years ago, a couple of umpires started giving some of their tickets to some kids that were with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. It sort of grew. So we've got a number of different initiatives. We've got 3 initiatives. We've got a ticket program where kids that are with Big Brothers or Big Sisters, or in some of these kids you can't even take a picture with on the field because they're sort of in protective custody. And we try and give them an experience that maybe, you know, it's tough for them to just get a normal, what we would say, everyday experience, but now you're going to get something special, because you never know what just little nudge will send somebody on a different trajectory. So we've got that program, and that goes, you know, all summer long. The ball clubs participate. We've also got another initiative, which is a hospital visit, which I guess last month, I think we were here at the Cleveland Clinic.
Yes, indeed.
Excuse me, which you guys helped out and covered, which we appreciated, because, you know, that's a situation where I went last year and my wife went with me. I worked the World Series, and after the next day after the game, you know, you worked the World Series, and you're excited. Now you've got the hospital visit, and you go to the pediatric oncology unit, and it sort of is like, okay. But there was one young lad there. He's like, I'm going to umpire school. He was like 10. He was in bad shape. He had he had a lot on his plate, and his folks are there, and the folks are like, what was it like? You know, do you think the Red Sox can win? You're like, I don't know. I'm not gonna comment on that.
I can't do that.
But you know, you go through that, and you're like, just to take them out of that situation because I happen to be an umpire. I happen to be in that. So you realize very quickly, when you participate in this charity, that it's not about you and it's not about, the game. It's about bringing the game to other people that are in different situations, that it really can have a huge impact. Just to take them out of that, room 412 on oncology floor at Boston Children's. So
Tim, I believe you guys are also doing some scholarship work.
We do scholarship programs. So a lot of times we deal with a lot of kids that are in foster care. Those are some of the kids that we have out to the ballpark. But when kids are adopted later in life, if they're adopted at all, they have a heck of a time. There's a gap there with scholarship money because they're not able to fulfill some of the criteria there. So right now, I think we have four. I think we have four. We have four current scholarships.
Four scholarships.
Four scholarships going right now, and we try and keep it. Keep those four scholarships, and we're pretty selective. And we've had some kids that have graduated and gone on and come back to help the charity and helped other kids. And once again, it's you're able to take the experience on the field, maybe translate it and say, okay, maybe think about doing this, think about doing that, and we're able to assist financially. So.
And again, it's called Umps Care.
Umps Care. Helping people is an easy call, Dino.
Hey, so if I'm right, you have done an All-Star game before, correct?
I have. 2009, in St. Louis.
Does this feel different knowing
Absolutely.
it's in Ohio?
Yes.
OH. I mean, absolutely.
Is this still, when you get the call, when you get the call to say, hey, it's your turn. You're going to be at the. I mean, I got to imagine it's still a thrill.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the phone rings and it says Joe Torre, and you go.
Oh,
go
boy.
and I
what did I do this
before?
time?
I'm like, let me. So it goes through. All right, I think I'm clean. Hello, Joe. Hey, Tim. So, anyway, but yeah, you get the call, and then my dad is going to actually be able to come to the game.
Oh, that's great.
He's an older guy, and he doesn't get out to the ballpark much anymore.
Fantastic.
But he's very excited. I'm more excited for him. I'm excited for my kids, my wife and kids. And a few of their friends came last night. We had a great time at the gala.
And where
Jones
was
Jet was still awesome.
Oh, yeah, I've heard. Where was the 2009 game? Refresh my
St.
memory?
Louis.
St. Louis?
St. Louis, yeah.
And did it pass without incident? Nobody was mad at you by the end of the night?
No. Come on.
Perfect.
What is the matter with you, bud?
Because at that point they were.
Umpires are superstitious animals. No, let's not.
But you forget that was at the time when the winner got to host the the World Series, so the winning league.
Were you allowed to have an opinion on that?
No, we don't.
No, we can. He can't. No.
I hated that. I hated the home team, the winner having home field advantage.
Really?
I didn't understand it. What? We'll be right back.
I don't know if I told you. I've got 20 years in the big leagues.
That's right.
I know how to answer the questions and which one's not to answer.
Fair enough.
Listen, Tim, we appreciate you coming by and
thanks
talking to
very
us.
much. Great meeting you.
Congratulations with
Thanks
everything
a
you're
lot.
doing with
I
Umps
appreciate
Care.
it, and-
That's
and
fantastic
Thank
work.
you for supporting the charity.
Thank you.
Thanks
Absolutely.
a lot. Take care, guys.
Tim Timmons will be a member of the umpire and crew tomorrow night for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game at Progressive Field.
I tried the gotcha question, and I didn't get him.
I know. It was shrewdly done. I thought he might.
Apparently not shrewdly enough.
Not shrewdly enough. I thought maybe he'd jump on. Yeah, I got to tell you now that Tim's gone and everything.
How do you really
hated
feel
that.
about umpires? Do you know? Is that what you're going to say?
I don't feel about umpires. They have. It's one thing. As writers and broadcasters, we think we sit there and we, with our eyes, we sit with the benefits of instant replay. We think we know more than these guys. I mean, they have such a thankless job. I guess that's the first and foremost. They have such a thankless job.
It's funny. There's the guy who is the head pro at Canterbury Country Club.
Yes.
Is a really great guy named Bill McKinley. And I talked to him recently and learned that I believe it was his grandfather, was a longtime American League umpire.
Oh, wow.
By the same name. And I said, well, that's a thankless job.
Yeah.
And he said, he learned that. He said he thought that that umps were almost invisible for a while. Like, if you knew the ump's name, that was a bad thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was in Yankee Stadium one time, and he made a call, and these fans started screaming at him, "They shot the wrong McKinley."
Oh, no.
He said that's when he learned.
No.
That's when he learned that they know your name.
That's it.
They've done their research, especially in a baseball town. And they're ready to pounce on you as soon as you make a mistake.
Yeah. So, but he's got, Tim's got the right attitude about it. And the other thing is, we can actually say I'm very happy that even though that it worked out pretty well for the Indians in 2016, except the fact they didn't win at home. I am happy that the All-Star game no longer has home field advantage tied into it.
Totally contrived to me, and I was half kidding, expecting him to have an opinion. I knew he wouldn't, but I'm glad that they went back to the other way. And now, if you've earned it through having the best record, you get to host it, and that's really the way it should be.
Yeah, I agree. There's got to be an incentive for playing well. And winning 100 games in the regular season.
And you're in a situation where there were so many substitutions in an All-Star game to begin with that there's a chance that it was being decided late by
not bad, but somebody from the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Oakland
Dodgers are going to have home field, and it just I never understood it, and I know it came out of that whole tie, right?
Yes.
That whole Bud Selig standing there, the famous picture.
Going, I don't know what to do. Yeah.
And so they tried to attach some relevance to it. I think they could do that in other ways if they haven't already. I still think it's the one All-Star game that so most closely resembles sheer competition.
Yes.
Because these guys have to get in there and dig in against a great pitcher. They want to win. I think that's enough. Maybe if there's my financial incentive, that's fine, but to do it for a home field advantage, I never liked it.
And that's the thing. I mean, unlike the NBA, they don't, where they don't play defense in the All-Star game. I mean, a guy goes out and pitches. If Shane Bieber gets an inning tomorrow, I mean, he can go all out and throw in the 90s and try to, strike people out and give somebody their best pitch. He's not just throwing softballs up there.
Now, if there's someone out there who believes the Pro Bowl is the best game, we have an empty seat.
Right,
I'd like to hear that. I'd like to
Please,
hear
make the argument. I mean,
because that's the opposite of going all out.
Yes, the Pro Bowl might as well be two-hand touch. I mean,
really.
Honestly.
Yeah, flag football, some kind of skills competition.
Yes.
That'd be much better than the current situation. So.
But we are at Play Ball Park here as we are now into Monday of the All-Star Weekend or Week festivities. Tonight will be, of course, Home Run Derby. And you walk around, hashtag HR Derby is everywhere. It's, and good luck tonight to Carlos Santana of the Indians. He'll be out there trying to be that hometown guy that Todd Frazier was a couple of years ago and win it in his home ballpark.
Yeah, it should be fun. I did run into some people who have tried that home run derby, the virtual reality, and they said it's unbelievable. So I don't know what the lines are like over there, but if anybody is here and
I think it was Peter. If we see our guy Peter up there, maybe he'll let us just he'll jump in.
Yeah, I think the last thing we want to do is become unpopular by going to the bypassing all the people waiting in line to go to the front of the line.
Yeah, have people throw things at me.
And we both make pretty big targets.
That's right.
That's the problem.
Coming up, we are expecting to have an Indians legend here a little later on in the show. We're going to talk a little authentication. Eric Strohl from the Major League Baseball is going to be here in just a second. We're also going to look at, apparently, Dave Hunt's going to come back and from Hunt Auctions, and he always has cool memorabilia to look at. I wanted to try to keep. He had a Babe Ruth card the other day, and he had a Mickey Mantle rookie card, which I think a Mickey Mantle rookie card told me was worth about $30,000.
Well, I thought the great story that he told us was the ball that had Ruth, Gehrig, and who else won it? Were you here that day?
I wasn't, but
I can't remember who the third signature was now, and I'm sure he will remind us. But it was those were legitimate signatures. Mm-hmm. But when they started to fade, whoever had the ball at the time had those signatures traced to restore the ink to them. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, devalued the thing by about $40,000.
Right. Now, I mean, now.
So check with somebody before. If you have a piece of memorabilia out there, you might want to check with somebody before you you decide what you want to do with it.
But it's an important night in terms of authentication because, you know, the All-Stars are starting to arrive in Cleveland, so there are going to be more autograph opportunities. You know, people are going to catch, you know, home run balls tonight at Progressive Field, and they want to be able to take that baseball and be able to say, hey, you know, this was hit by, it won't be Yelich because he's not here, but this was hit by whoever, Alonso. I want to authenticate it. Well, if you want to do that, this gentleman is one of the people who can help you out. Eric, it's good to see you, my man. How are you?
We're
back. Good.
I'm back.
Good to see you again.
How you guys doing?
Good.
We're doing well. We said, you know, it's a big authentication type of night because, you know, people, you know, the All-Stars are starting to arrive into town, and of course, you know, people are going to be catching home run balls tonight. They're going to be able to say, yeah, I caught this at the Home Run Derby in 2019.
Yeah. Well, you know, to be honest, I don't know if they actually mark the balls in any way.
I wonder.
The authentication program, which started in 2008, is something that happens after a play occurs, right? You can see that all the time when they're rolling balls back. Every foul ball now gets rolled back to the dugout. There's somebody in the dugout that's the authenticator for that team, that's putting stickers on it, putting it in the database right away. And it has to be done at that time. Once the ball goes in the crowd, the chain of custody is lost, and you can't authenticate something that goes into the
Is that
crowd.
like a clubhouse guy that is?
Each of the teams have, and I think they have more than one. It's kind of like an official score. You have more than one guy that can perform that function. But yeah, they have authenticators. Each team has authenticators. And you go to any game now, you know, they have the authentic store. You can go up to the store before the game's even over and probably get something from earlier in the game.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
In terms of batted balls and things like
yeah.
that. Now, if it's an important milestone event or something where any player can ask something to be authenticated, like, hey, this is the bat I just used, but it has to happen at the time. You can't the next day say, put a sticker on this bat for what I used yesterday.
Very interesting. I happen to be fortunate enough to cover Cal Ripken's run to pass Lou Gehrig, and was sitting in the press box when a foul ball came up off of Harold Baines' bat. And I'd love to tell you that I just reached out and snatched it like that, but it actually hit me as I tried to catch it. But I had it, and then it had, you know, and that one was marked, obviously, with that weekend, I think, was 2131.
2131, yeah.
Yeah, they did it too for bonds. They had little holograms or something. They were marking the balls before they were, before they were even used, so that they could figure it out. Because that was a home run record. They knew it was going to go in the crowd, and you had to be able to have something that you could check and verify that a fan didn't switch a ball. Because that could happen. You know, somebody catches a ball, but they brought a ball in with them.
Interesting. I wouldn't. See, my mind doesn't work in
Right.
such
I was going
devious
to say,
ways.
you almost have to be kind of like a detective and be able to think in contingencies like that.
Yeah, so it's really about the chain of custody of the thing. But anyway, MLB, I think they started that in 08, where they started taking control because the situation was getting out of control with things purporting to have been.
So, for instance, when a guy, say Bobby Brown, who was just called up, if he hits his first home run, the Indians will ask for that fan to give him the ball, correct?
Yeah, that's
in exchange for.
But that wouldn't be necessarily officially authenticated with a sticker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that it's not true, but it just means it's not part of the MLB database. Because you got a sticker, you can go online with your sticker, and it'll tell you what it is.
I got you.
It's to prevent, and if you take the sticker off, it leaves a mark, it damages the sticker, so you can't take it and trade it, put it from one item to another.
Gotcha.
Now, that doesn't really, if things are authenticated, that's fine for us, but it also makes no difference whatsoever for us. That we just try to make our own independent judgment if it's something being offered to the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Is there an unusual item the most unusual item you had to authenticate? Can you kind of think of the top of your, that was like, oh, really? They want this? Okay.
You mean us or a person?
A person.
Yeah, no, well, we don't get involved at all in authenticating anybody else's stuff.
Okay.
We're a museum. That's not our job. And, boy, you're starting to wade into territory that it's not, anything you want to have anything to do with.
Gotcha.
So, like the memorabilia scene and the auction scene and the authentication scene, we have nothing to do with any of that. What we're concerned about is anything we take into the collection. We want to feel good that it is exactly what it's purporting to be.
Gotcha.
So we'll do our own investigation. You know, there's so much technology now, and everything's taped. So particularly with things like bats, a player does something with a bat and we ask for the bat, we can zoom in because every frame is taped, and bats have a unique identity from all the times you hit something with it, right? So there's a mark here, and you can go, well, that wasn't, that's not the bat you used to hit that. You can make that determination. Bats, you can. It's harder with other things like uniforms because there is no mark. Hats, sometimes people touch their hats, they write things on their hats. If the uniform's pinstriped, they're not always uniforms, so it's a little bit easier. But when it comes to other things, and shoes are very unique too, because these guys love shoes now.
Yeah, I wouldn't even
Some of these guys have hundreds of pairs of shoes.
People, I still, looking at your shirt and just thinking about the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it is still, it's such a treat, I think, for fans if they haven't been up there to see it. But you're always having to continue to kind of move things in and move things up because records are always broken and unique achievements just always happen, and it's you guys always have to be on your toes for something new and exciting that happened in a game.
You can plan for some of it. Other stuff just happens. We meet once a month, my team and our PR team. The PR team is the ones who actually go out and get the artifacts because they're the ones who have the relationships with the clubhouse guys and the PR guys at all the teams. But the curators will sit down, and we'll sit down as a group and say, okay, well, what milestones are coming up this year? What milestones are coming up this month? What's happening in terms of hitting and pitching and stolen base milestones, both single season and career? And so, you don't try for everything, but what is important? What are you trying to get? Then there's the reactive things. You have no clue it's going to happen. That happens every year in baseball. Something happens. Never happened before, which seems ridiculous because it's been around for 150 years, but it happens.
It's amazing.
So whether it's a perfect game or a no-hitter or somebody hits 4 home runs in a game or a hit for the cycle, then you kind of just have to, we'll be on the phone with somebody's taking a no-hitter to the ninth, we'll be on the phone with that team and be like, if this happens, you put a bug in the ear of the PR guy. Of course, you never see players, you don't say anything to anybody in the dugout. It's post fact that they would ask.
Well, I think we may have to let you go after this, but real quickly, is there 1 or 2 milestones coming up this season that fans might have lost track of?
Well, we had Pujols and and Sabathia. There was a bunch that already happened this year. At this point, I don't recall there's anything that's big. Like you talk about the 500, the 500,
3,000,
and the 3,000 and the 3,000. We're also at this point of the year now. We're looking at the second half of the year. We start to kind of guess on who might be award winners. So that's a guessing game. But you say to yourself, okay, well, here's the top 3 front runners for maybe the NL Cy Young, and we don't have something from this one guy. He might be the guy this year. So kind of just keep that in the back of your mind and maybe run that flag up the pole with that team just to keep an eye out for you. Because it may not be an event-specific thing. It may be get something from the season to represent the year rather than he did this day.
Right. Eric, thanks for stopping by here.
All right.
Good to see you. Congratulations.
Thank you for joining us.
It's good to have you in Cleveland.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. And, hey, come by and visit our exhibit.
Sounds good.
Indeed.
Play Ball Park. We got 125 artifacts. Come visit Cooperstown here in Cleveland.
That's right.
There you go.
I love Cooperstown.
We talked about it when he was on with us the other day. I mean, they're bringing Cleveland Indians Museum basically to Play Ball Park.
All right, and I mean, she's even on the phone. That's how busy it is when you get Play Ball Park set up here. Jackie Sicariacato is going to join us from Major League Baseball. We'll get her headset here. Play Ball Park is just an absolute, it's a wonderland for baseball and baseball fans, and Jackie's one of the people who was responsible for it. Congratulations on this. This is just a wonderful, wonderful exhibition and showcase for baseball.
I like to say it's a team effort. I take all congratulations, and it's a very big team effort. And I thought this was a radio interview, and there's a camera going on here, and I love the chair.
Yeah, right. I mean,
that's all right. He's already fallen into the sign.
I almost fell into the sign. So that's there you go.
Good for business. But yeah, this is a big team effort. We worked really closely internally to create a spectacular fan experience. A lot of new things for the city of Cleveland that we put together for this Play Ball Park launch. But we work very closely internally with the front office of the Cleveland Indians A lot of help from the city and the Sports Commission as we take this event outdoors and indoors. We could not have done that without their support.
And what are the new things at this All-Star?
Well, I think we're right across from one of them, Triple Play. That's a really cool and fun experiential thing we have going on here. We have the celebration of the walk-off home run with the bouncy. We have the Topps House of Cards, which is over 750,000 baseball cards that were used to create that footprint. And I think the VIP of the event is that, Velcro suit home run robbery. Have you tried that?
No.
You should definitely try on that Velcro suit and go for the robbing of the home run. Capture your image, and you're stuck to the wall.
And you get stuck to the wall.
Yeah,
And you get stuck to the wall.
How do you get to, I was imagining like we'd have volunteers pulling people off the wall, but you just have to lean forward and you just come unattached. Velcro is very powerful.
So you can not only flip a bat here, but you can then rob somebody of the
we
home
have the
run
bat
they thought they got when they flipped the bat.
Exactly,
I love
exactly. But yeah, that's new here. We have the customized cleats, which have you checked that out? That footprint, which is right over there in the Art of the Game. And we're giving away free customization, one per day for kids. Because kids are, part of that is the great display we have of some artists that painted and designed some shoes celebrating the All-Star Game. We're going to be auctioning that off at the end of the event through MLB.com with proceeds going to MLB charities. But we have kids sharing their artwork. We're actually going to have Francisco Lindor on Tuesday. A pair of his shoes there as well. He's going to meet some of the young fans, take pictures with them and their artwork. So looking for ways always to engage with the fans, especially the kids. And to have someone like Francisco Lindor be our ambassador, it was a really big deal. He's a great guy. He loves to play. He loves the fans. He just wants to engage with them whenever possible.
You've also utilized, and we had Peter on the other day talked about this, the virtual reality and the video game aspect of things, and embracing, the fact that kids like to play video games and of all ages, and it's taking that technology and utilizing that as well.
Yeah, I got a text saying that we have, part of the technology besides the VR is we try and enhance the fan experience through our Experience Pass, which is kind of like a reservation system. When you want to go eat at a restaurant, you make a reservation. You get a message, hey, your table is ready. So we've done that for our attractions that are very popular. The VR footprint is one of them. The autograph session is one of them. To do that, but yeah, we have our VR. That's also something new for Cleveland. Last year we launched that in DC with 4 cages. Great response. Fans loved it. This year we have 8. We changed it up a little bit too, but that's a big deal. I think that last year that broke records on Twitch as far as streaming, the number of people that were streaming the tournament and the final. The winner goes to the Home Run Derby.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Not to compete, but to celebrate his competition.
I hope everyone involved gets a month off after this, but how soon do you guys then turn around and say what worked here, what didn't, and what can we take to the next?
Well, this is the first time we've done this. We haven't done this indoor event. We've had great attendance, so we have great numbers. We're going to take a look and see. We have a way to tell how many people came through our mags outdoors, and then of those people, how many people came indoors, how much time did they spend here. As we go to different cities, we have different size convention centers and different size outdoor space. Some is on grass, some is on cement. So, we've been working on next year's All-Star Game for a little bit now already. So we get a head start, like for instance, it blows people's minds. With this year's event, we started talking about this at the end of 2014.
Wow.
So we have a trip to LA pretty soon after this show closes, so it's kind of like a year.
One eye on the present, one eye on the future.
It never really ends.
No, it doesn't.
That's right.
Well, listen, thank you.
Thanks
for
for
joining us.
good to
so
see
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Please
And
be
I've got the
careful on
chair
the
here.
chairs.
Make sure nothing
Yes,
happens.
we'll do.
Hold my chair.
I got you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. This is, again, we talk a lot about how great Play Ball Park is because it really is a wonderful, wonderful venue. And, you can, be a baseball fan of any age, anything, and you can really enjoy yourself here. And if you like collectibles, you can enjoy yourself as well because Dave Hunt is back. And Dave, good to see you, my man.
I won some hardware while I was away.
I know, right?
I thought you were presenting it to one of us.
Right. Most valuable player, Bud Shaw. From Hunt Auctions,
Yes.
we've got the official Pudge Rodriguez MVP trophy.
Yeah, an amazing collection. Obviously, Pudge one of, if not the best catcher in Major League Baseball history, most accomplished by records and games and Gold Glove awards. And we were really honored to be contacted by him to do a portion of his collection with a good bit of the proceeds going to one of the foundations that he uses for children of refugees that are suffering. So,
wow.
You know, one thing that's really cool is a lot of players will get the question, why would they sell these things?
Yeah.
Sure.
And in almost every case, you have to think about if you're a player, these awards, these bats, these gloves were just your tools of your job. It was your job. And it's not that they don't appreciate them, they do. But many times, especially if you're somebody that, like Pudge, that wins, 13 Gold Glove awards, if you want to auction for and do some good and raise some money for whatever it is, why not? And they obviously keep things that are important to them, but it's such a significant
I was going to
offering.
say, an MVP trophy is...
I'm glad you brought this up because last night I was out and talking to some baseball fans, and someone said, well, if those items from Pudge are available, must mean he's fallen on some hard times.
Yeah.
And I said, no,
he's got
not
financial
necessarily.
problems.
That's not the...
No, I mean, and we have been very fortunate to deal with hundreds of Major League families. Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Babe Ruth last week, Pudge, on and on. Everybody has their different reasons for doing it. And if it's done in the proper way with good entities involved, it's a win for everybody. You get fans that get some absolutely authentic pieces right from their favorite players, do some good for some charities. But you're right, it is a common misperception, and it's just not the case.
Yeah. Well, he was the starting catcher here in 1997.
Yeah.
When Sandy Alomar replaced him.
I was going to say that set the stage for Alomar to have the late game heroics. Now,
and as we mentioned,
fantastic.
We had a couple. He was very fortunate to win. I think it was 13 or 14 in total. So we have 5 that are in the auction. And this is this is
07.
This is 2007.
Yeah.
Yep. And they changed the style too. This is the more modern style with the platform. You see the older ones with the wooden plinth and the baseballs on the tripods. So those are the other types we have. But again, if you're talking about defensive achievements, this is the top of the line. And these bring about in that $10,000 to $20,000 range each is generically what the market is for Gold Gloves.
Has anybody Cy Young Award? Cy Young Trophy?
Yeah, we had Whitey Ford's from Whitey, and that brought right around $100,000. We had Jim Palmer's from him, and they brought around $50,000 to $75,000 each. And for example, I remember Jim did some things for autism. So, yeah, it's a great way for fans to get these pieces right from players. And I found, I'm not certainly speaking for Pudge or anybody individually, but it's interesting to me that players, there's accomplishments, the memories and the relationships they have with the other players, they won't give those away. If it's an object that some player gave them, just something that meant a lot to them.
Right.
It's the individual awards. They don't. The tangible pieces don't mean as much as the accomplishments. And I'm not just saying that. It's every one of the players tells me that. Every one of them.
Wow.
Is there one item that over the last few years has stuck out that went for the highest amount of money?
Yeah, you teed that one up good. So we just sold Babe Ruth's collection for his family last weekend at Yankee Stadium. And we had a jersey that was consigned by another party who'd had it for 30 years. And they're extraordinarily rare. There's only about 5 or 6 of any kind of quality known. And it brought $5.64 million.
Wow.
Which is a record not for any baseball item, for any sports-related artifact in the history of collecting.
That's even more than sports writers make a year. I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, and it was a great
piece. Is that
piece.
his granddaughter?
Yes, from Linda Ruth Tossetti and also Tom Stevens, both grandchildren. They participated, but the jersey was an additional piece. But here's another example of where it's great to see that history celebrated in the marketplace as well. I remember, I've done this a long time, and I remember when that jersey would have been a couple $100,000. And it was $5.6 million now, so it's amazing.
In the case of a guy like Pete Rose, we know there's a lot of people lining up on both sides of that issue. How has that affected? Have you had any items of his, and has affected the value
It has. Look, I think early on, and it's a long debate, obviously, I think early on, if he had handled it a different way, or maybe not even him, but if some things had broke differently, I think it would have played out a different way.
I do too.
And the money for the items would have been there. I feel he may well have been in the Hall of Fame, etc. It's broken a different way, and you're seeing it reflected in the values as well.
Yeah, well, because I don't know if he still does this, but he's for years and years on Hall of Fame weekend, he'd go to Cooperstown to sign things. It's not that rare. I guess what I'm saying is something from Pete isn't necessarily that rare anyway. And then the value, like you said, takes a hit.
Now, he is still very popular. I mean, he really is, and for good reason. I mean, he was one of the greatest players in history. There's no question about it. It's unfortunate. That's the word I use when people ask me about that situation. It's unfortunate.
You know, Bob Feller obviously has a great legacy in this town. He's also a guy who signed a lot of stuff.
There's almost a joke. I'm sure everybody's heard it. You get everybody's heard it.
Please.
You know, it's something that's not signed by Bob is rare than the items that are.
Yeah, sure.
But you know what? I will tell you, interestingly, we do retail venues in Major League Stadiums, and even here, still very popular. Sells very, very well. I mean, he's just one of those guys that everybody has a story that he met him and said a nice word to their kid or whatever it may be.
What's it for as far as an Indians fan? What's the most like?
Is there a holy grail out there?
Yeah.
I mean, there's almost two different genres. There's sort of that Cy Young, Joe Jackson, Addie Joss there, and then you get into the Bob Lemon, Bob Feller, Satchel Paige era. Those seem to be the two that everybody are sort of, they come through the booth, they look, and we have items from both those eras there. But I think as far as value, things from Addie Joss, Joe Jackson, Cy Young, of any kind of significance, they're so rare. They're so scarce. So when they turn up, they bring a lot of money typically. But there's been a lot of interesting things coming over the weekend in the appraisal fair. A beautiful 48 Indians ball that I think we talked to you guys about. And one really cool Babe Ruth, Tris Speaker, and Ty Cobb baseball that was signed at the Cleveland Baseball Federation in 1941. They did an event out here. Some uniforms, cards. So it's been not surprising. It's such a great history out here. We've had a lot of great items come in. So.
Excellent.
Dave, it's good to see you again.
Hey,
Hunt Auctions, David Hunt.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
Popping by. And look at that. I mean, Gold Glove, Pudge Rodriguez. I mean, that's just some of what you can find at Hunt Auctions. I love that. The MVP trophy is my personal favorite.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
Should have said Bud, Bud
I like to see
Shaw.
where's Omar? Bring one of your gold gloves over here.
Yeah, that's right.
Where's he been? Yeah, those are fantastic, and I'm glad to hear that story of Pudge Rodriguez because some people will jump to conclusions.
Absolutely.
When they see that a guy is selling off memorabilia. I happen to get it. It's like if you have the memory of doing it, of that achievement, and then you shared it with a bunch of people, you may not. I know people who won these kinds of awards who don't even put them out on their mantle. They're like, yeah, okay.
They just sit in a box somewhere or in a storage unit.
So if you happen to be one of those people and it can bring money to charity, or I would even say if it brings you some money if you want it or need it at some point in your life, I don't have any issue with people doing that.
No, and you see it with the championship rings too. I mean, people will, especially if they've won, they're more likely to keep it unless they've won multiple rings. Then all of a sudden, if you win a couple, all of a sudden,
one of 13 gold gloves.
Exactly.
I
can go ahead and part with that, and you tend. I think you tend to see that. I want a Cleveland team to have one championship ring. If we could get more, that'd be great, but just one would be fine.
Well, what's your trophy room look like? Do you know?
Let's see. I have one Associated Press plaque and two press club certificates.
I meant sports
awards. A bunch of trophies from basketball and football as a kid.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but basically the cutoff was kind of like Tim Timmons. At some point it was like I think sophomore year when okay, this isn't going to work. I decided I'd better become a broadcaster because this whole playing thing is not going to work.
I have trophies from real sports like bowling and ping pong.
Golf. Well, what about golf? Listen, you're. I mean,
no, I'm not.
You are.
Ask the other WKYC guys. I was a downgrade from when they had Betsy Kling last year. So
I saw you with Handling golfing.
Yeah, well, that's
in Rizzo golfing.
They can do a lot of things with video these days. I mean, look at Crane; he makes us look.
Well, the true that.
I wouldn't say good, but okay.
Acceptable, passable.
Yeah.
All right. Play Ball Park is where we're at here at Huntington Convention Center. We'll be with you to about 1:30 this afternoon. And then reminder, stay at WKYC.com. Keep us close all day long. We'll keep you updated as the players are getting into town. Press conferences are taking place over as we get ready for tomorrow night's All-Star game. And then, of course, the Home Run Derby itself tonight. We've got full coverage for you on WKYC.com. Follow Facebook and also follow our Twitter as well. Use the hashtag. By the way, if you want to really get to our coverage, use the hashtag 3AllStar both on Twitter and on Instagram. and that'll get you to our coverage as well. Pictures, videos, you name it, we've got it.
And if you go to the game, don't holler at the third base umpire.
Yes.
He's a pretty good guy.
He's a good guy.
And he's an Ohioan. So.
And his family's in town. I mean, his family's in town. Come on. So, but again, tomorrow is the All-Star game. There are 4 Indians who are going to be a part of it this year, which I think is always great when you're hosting it, including the starter, Carlos Santana. You get Shane Bieber in there. Yeah. You get Francisco Lindor in there. And you get Brad Hand in there. And all deserving. I mean, it's a terrific class.
Just think of where we were a month ago. On June 3rd, I believe this team was 12 games out in the loss column.
Yes.
Nick Camino reminded me of that on Twitter. As of July 7th, they're 5 out in the loss column. A month ago, we looked at this All-Star game as that could be a little uncomfortable if they're 12 games, they're 11 games back, and they've started the process of maybe selling off some assets, and they've got the baseball world coming into town. They seem to have not only corrected themselves, but done it at exactly the right time. So baseball world is in Cleveland watching this weekend what's going to be going on with the All-Star game at a time when the Indians have won 6 in a row, I think 22 of 31.
Yeah.
Have 4 guys on the All-Star team. So they've righted the ship in a pretty dramatic way over a really short period of time.
And, as we were reminded when we had Curtis Danberg on yesterday, as soon as after everything kind of dies down after tomorrow, everything's going to be kind of set for this weekend when the Minnesota Twins come to town. And, driving into work today, I mean, the Indians already have billboards up, AL Central Showdown. It's a big deal that Minnesota's coming in. You still, 13 more games this year between the two teams, and everyone's important when you're trying to chase them.
And, the next couple times they run into the Twins, it's going to be out there.
Yes.
So this is the second series in a row that's been at home for the Indians, and I think in a way it's even more important that they take advantage of these home games. They won the series the last time, I think took 2 out of 3. If they can do that again, obviously everybody wants to see them sweep and cut this thing down to 2.5 or whatever it is. But realistically, if they hold their own in this one, it's going to set up for a really good summer, I think.
What was your takeaway yesterday? We talked to MLB Network analyst and the former MLB All-Star Cliff Floyd, and you can go back and see that interview at WKYC.com and also here on YouTube as well. You had asked him when we started about the Twins and if they were going to be, if that was going to be a team to watch in terms of the buying and selling market. What was your takeaway from some of the things he talked about in this AL Central race?
Well, I thought it was instructive that, he looks at it the same way the Dolan family has looked at it in past years. They have been very willing to go out at the trade deadline and get players, as they did with Andrew Miller, as they did with Josh Donaldson.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a couple.
Jay Bruce.
There's a couple other examples. But they do that when they feel like that window is sitting open. They have a 4, 5, 6, 7 game lead in the division, and that's their way of securing that lead and positioning themselves for October. It's a lot to ask these smaller markets, and I know people say they're tired of hearing this called a small market, mid-market.
Okay.
It's hard. It's hard to
a reality.
Ask them,
it's a reality.
It's hard to ask them to chase a 6-game deficit, a 5, 7, 8 game deficit. They don't have, generally, it's not smart financially to do that. So I think it's really important that on July 8th, is that where we're at today?
Yeah.
That they've got the lead down to this manageable number so that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, maybe they get it down to where it's almost not a lead or next to nothing.
And they stay as a wild card team.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they're still in that threshold as well.
But I don't think you take on payroll to chase the last wild card spot.
I agree.
I just don't think it makes a lot of sense organizationally, and it makes you very short-sighted when you need to have a bigger, broader vision. But I think this run over the last month has really put them in a good position now to go after the Twins. And if that means staying pat, if that means making a minor deal, trying to find another hitter, I think they're in a position to do it.
But they have, the one thing they want to do is protect assets and protect, they don't want to be in a position where, they're going out and finding a high-priced veteran, per se, that they would have to part with, one of their top prospects. They don't want to, they did that with Andrew Miller. They're not in that mold right now because they value the Bobby Bradleys. They value the Zach Plezaks. They value those types of guys, that are just like on the, periphery in the majors and being able to stay here.
And even in those cases, generally, like when they brought Andrew Miller in, when they brought Brad Hand in, those were guys that were signed already for a few years. So they knew they could control those guys after that season that they went and got them. And that's an important thing for a lot of organizations, not just the Cleveland Indians, to be able to do.
Far as tonight, how much stock, if you watch the Home Run Derby, it's an exhibition. It's a fun thing. Do you enjoy it though? Just to sit and I always love the the black and white show when ESPN Classic was showing.
I used to watch that
I love that show. I love it.
And that was shot. I believe I asked somebody this. I think that was done in December usually. Somewhere.
At some park in Los Angeles.
It wasn't like you always hear like, are these guys going to mess up their swings by swinging for the fences? And those guys never had to worry about it because it was off season. I don't think that's a big issue with Carlos Santana. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I just think it's one of those fun events that involves fans because balls are flying into to the seats, more so than say the 3-point shooting contest, which I also like. I've never liked the slam dunk, because I think creativity-wise they've just run out of ways to do it.
Yes. Now, when you talk about the All-Star Game in Cleveland, there is no better memory than 1997 when Sandy Alomar Jr. hit the home run into the bleachers, and Joe Buck's call hometown hero goodbye to win it for the American League. Part of a wonderful 1997 season he had. He's a member of the Indians coaching staff now. Multiple-time Gold Glover, multiple-time All-Star, Sandy Alomar Jr. is our guest.
And you look like you could still
Bud, how you doing, Bud?
I was going to say, you look like you could still go after it.
Outside the car, the pain looks okay, but the engine's not working. Too many surgeries. And,
how are the knees?
My knees are better than my back. My knees, I ride a lot, do a lot of exercise, but my back is the sore issue here. I have a condition back there that hurts.
You had the injections in your back occasionally?
Yes, I have done some blocks and stuff like that. Just got to stay moving.
Yeah.
Now, does that go back to when you, as a player, when you heard it before spring training, that thing in particular, or it's just the years of wear and tear as a catcher?
That and wear and tear.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with any. I was a tall guy, with a low setup, so obviously somewhere in your body you're going to suffer. So the back was the issue.
Well, we were just talking about what's happened over here in the last 5 weeks for the Cleveland Indians. What have you seen? What is the biggest reason they've gone from 12 games behind in the loss column to 5 at the All-Star break?
I see better chemistry with we have in spring training we had 21 new faces. We had a lot of guys getting to know each other. A lot of young kids that were afraid to fail. But what I see the most is other than the pitching giving us a chance every day. I mean, our pitching is the cornerstone of our team. I mean, they are the best. The offense have a much better approach, though. Yeah. I mean, we're not striking out as much. We're hitting the ball the other way, even with power. And when the guys make mistakes, we pull them. The first month was atrocious. It was like a lot of strikeout, no power. That's not a good combination. If you're going to strike out a lot, you better have a lot of power.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are mixing in. Tito does a good job mixing in the small ball with a better approach. So we're doing a good job on that right now.
You talked about the young players, and the team looked like it really got an infusion of energy, from the Mercados when he brought up Bradley, Plesac as a rotational guy now. Can you talk about just the impact that the kids up from Columbus have made on this team?
Well, Mercado is a very exciting baseball player. I mean, he has all the tools, and he's still kind of still green in some areas. But that's part of the development, That's why he was sent to AAA. But he was doing a great job up there. He can bring you some speed. He has surprisingly, some power that has hit against pitchers that are top-notch pitching. So he's a player that you're going to have here for a long period of time. And then you have Luplo that came, he struggled at the beginning, and all of a sudden he's hitting all these home runs.
Right.
So he's getting confidence. It's all about, getting your feet wet, getting time to play, and knowing your role a little better, and knowing that you're going to be here instead of being sent down to the minor leagues.
On a personal level, we just had a guy here from an auction house where he gets a lot of memorabilia. We also had a guy from Cooperstown that's talking about the authentication of certain things that they have. Do you have anything from the '97 All-Star game that you've kept?
I don't have any. My son has everything.
Yeah?
Yeah, he has a trophy, the catching gear, the mask, my shoes. I had customized shoes from LJO, a company called then LJO. They used to make shoes for Walmart. They made a customized shoe for me called Rawlings LJO. But batting glove from Rawlings also. So he has all the memorabilia, including my rings and stuff like that. If you walk in my house where I live, you wouldn't even know that I play baseball. I don't have nothing in there to say, hey, I play baseball. So
where does that '97 All-Star game rank in your memory file of things that happened to you in baseball?
Personally?
Yes.
I have to say it's in the top, but I don't say it's the most important thing, because I feel like the '97, All-Star game is an exhibition game, and you want to put a good show. But to me, the '95, raising the banner in '95, has been, to me, the most memorable moment as a Cleveland Indian player, because it have a big significance of all the drought we have from losing. I mean, all those losing years, when you raise that banner, that means that the plan that you had, you executed and you succeeded. I mean, we haven't won the World Series, but we have been in the World Series 3 times since then. So opportunity is going to arise. So eventually, and we have an organization that, if you think about it, we've been in postseason a lot for a low market team. Yeah. I mean, we can look. You can look at other organizations that have a higher budget and never see postseason for a while. We have an opportunity to be in postseason a lot.
Do you remember what you thought when you found out you, as a young player, that you were being traded here?
No, I'm not looking at it like that. I remember when I was in AAA and my second year in AAA, and it was getting to the point that I was going to lose all my options to get sent down. So I knew I was going to get traded. Either me or Benito Santiago was going to get traded. Yeah. So at that point, it doesn't really matter. You sign a minor league contract. You really sign a minor league contract to play for 30 teams. That is the reality.
Good way to look at it.
I mean, you got to look at it that way, because let's say you are first pick. Your first pick, and you're a shortstop in Cleveland. You got Francisco Lindor in front of you. If you think that way, you go, oh wait a minute.
Yeah, right.
You got Francisco Lindor.
That's right.
But you're a trade chip too. Like anybody can use it for a trade. So that's the way I play baseball. And when I was there, and I knew that Cleveland came over to Winter Ball to see me play, I knew I was going to go there. So. They made a big push.
I got to imagine it's now that the Indians are back home, we're at the All-Star break, and you're here for the All-Star festivities. The fact that some of your teammates are back in town from the mid-'90s teams, I mean, it becomes like a family reunion again. Baerga, Tomey, Omar, all the guys. It's like the old stories all come back.
Well, the Cleveland Indians, they do a good job of keeping those guys fresh around all the time. They don't. I've seen all these guys that you see here. I've seen them plenty.
Right.
I mean, during the season, they come in to throw first pitches. They come to banquets, some kind of activities they have with the Indian charity events. So, I mean, it's also good that they're here for the All-Star game. So I'm kind of glad that they're bringing them all here and have a chance to hang around with Jimmy. Unfortunately, I couldn't do the Futures game.
Right.
But just seeing Dennis Martinez and Jim Tomey there, Espinosa, Carlos Baerga is awesome. They did a great job.
Sandy, we had Mike Napoli here a couple days ago, and he said that he would like to at some point manage. Is that still an aspiration of yours?
Every coach okay, is in this level should think about if the opportunity arises. Yes, I'm not seeking. I'm not seeking. Oh, I want to do this now. I'm enjoying my ride. If the opportunity arises, fine. If it doesn't, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I really love it.
And the fact that you've been able to stay in Cleveland. I mean, it's you love you. This town could give you a big hug, and I know how much you and your family loves being here. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I have to tell you, like when I left Cleveland in 2001, never saw postseason again. I played for 5 different organizations, not even close to being in the postseason. Come back, right again. You're back on the postseason, and it's fun to play or to coach for somebody that, even though we are a small market franchise, they still do the best they can to try to put the team in the best position to succeed.
Sandy, we know you got to get going here. Thanks for stopping by. It's great to see you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Continued success with the Indians this summer here. Sandy Alomar Jr., Indians legend, All-Star Game MVP in 1997, Tribe coach now for this current 2019 team.
Also hit a home run against Mariano Rivera that I seem to remember.
That moment sometimes, I think, in all the pageantry of 1997 gets lost a little bit, but people have to remember, you're in the 8th inning. They brought Mariano Rivera in for a 4-out save or whatever it was, and the Indians are down by a run, and here comes Sandy, comes in and goes oppo on Rivera, opposite field, gets a home run and ties that game, enables the Indians to win it in the 9th, come back for Game 5, and advance to play the Orioles. I mean, so many things could have gone differently in the Jacobs Field era if he doesn't get that home run.
In all fairness to him, there were times when we wrote about his off years at bat.